This week's in-studio guest is one of our favorite developing artists, Nashville-based singer-songwriter Doug Hoekstra. Doug grew up in Chicago, playing in garage bands as a teenager, and during the late 80s and early 90s, he was a member of the Chicago-based alt-country band Bucket Number 6, who released one album before splitting up in 1989. Since 1994, he's released 5 studio albums and 1 live set. Wired magazine said of Doug, "A lot of people write songs. Hoekstra writes 5-minute worlds." Doug tours frequently, both in the U.S. and Europe, and last fall he released his latest album, Waiting. Like earlier records, Waiting was co-produced by former Bruce Hornsby and the Range guitarist George Marinelli. Doug Hoekstra joins us today as our in-studio guest. So when I got your record, I didn't read any of the liner notes, I just put it on. Mm-hmm. And I remembered that you had recently announced the birth of your son, and I thought when I was listening to the record, I thought, oh yeah, well, this is the record you do while the baby's sleeping. Keep the drums low, keep everything, turn it down in there. But then I found out this was done before the baby.
That's right. We were waiting for the baby, hence the title. But
Waiting.
Yeah. Well, it was a time when, I was at home waiting for him to come, and friends of mine who kind of wanted to work with, they were on the road, and I had the songs, and I was really dying to get them down because I felt really strong about the songs. My friend George Marinelli, we were in the studio working on a tune, and he goes, dig this. He goes, I bought this little Boss 532. I'm going to take it on the road with Bonnie. He plays with Bonnie Raitt. And I'm going to cut a whole record while I'm on the road on this thing. I said, wow, that's cool. They're only like $400. So I went and bought one too. He goes out on the road. He comes back. I've got my record done. I think he got one song done. But so he inspired me in that sense, and it was cool because I went back to the way that I, very, very firstly started to work when I was a kid, and I'd work on my dad's old reel-to-reel, and I'd try to play everything myself.
Four-tracking.
Yeah, whether I could or not. Yeah. And that was kind of appropriate too, since my son was coming. It seemed to all work in synergy. Teresa, she is 5 years old, brown hair, green eyes, does what she's told. She acts as a lookout for the danger boys. Her Cadillac stops at the traffic light. She gets real close to the passenger side and fixes her chewing gum to the window glass. 2 blocks away, the car stops again. The boys stroke the guns and descend on a woman with a 7-carat diamond ring. The light goes green. The boys shake loose. Sao Paulo streets, tight as a noose. Teresa. Palm trees and sandy beaches, a world that lies beyond the reach of outstretched hands, dipping in the sea. Rummaging through the rich man's trash in a cathedral square with eyes detached, she takes off her makeup to look a little younger. Idols fall, chains break loose. Sao Paulo streets, tight as a noose. Teresa, yeah. Teresa, she is 12 years old, brown eyes and belly, baby to be sold. The danger boys measure the market well. And there's a couple in the USA, well now $20,000 they will pay, and some people put a price on anything. And Teresa gets a $50 bill when the child is delivered from fractured will of falling through the hole in a safety net. The couple forgets seeds of abuse, Apollo streets, tight as a noose. Teresa, 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 yeah, yeah. Carmen Miranda on a wooden sign smiles at tourists from another time. The sun shines down on peeling paint. Oh, yeah.
The song Teresa from our in-studio guest this week, Doug Hoekstra.
I would do some of these do some of these parts over and over, because when you're with a band, you hear everything as a collective piece. And although I had the arrangement in my head, I'm hearing that guitar,
Right.
and I'm hearing that bass. I'm hearing that little string buzz that I'm never going to hear when it's all done.
Right.
And so it took me a while to get over that, And after I did some of that, then I let go a little bit and moved quicker. But at first, it was very, very slow because of that.
You said you mentioned in the liner notes this was a very different way for you to work.
Mm-hmm.
This is all that we're talking about. Not going to a studio, not working with lots of other people. You're left to your own devices, though, as producer. So I mean, there isn't anybody there to tell you when to stop.
Right.
For you, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Well, I'm pretty self-critical, and I do, on all my records, I've shepherded the arrangements and that sort of thing pretty well, although I like to collaborate. So that part wasn't too bad, but I was glad that I had a plan to go mix it elsewhere, and we added some things in the mixing process and all that. That was good, because then that added some of that collaborative element, because more of a difficulty was I recorded 17 songs, and I was thinking, well, this sounds pretty good to me, but nobody's heard it. Normally your musicians hear it and your singers, and there's all these many people who hear the stuff. So that was more of the difficulty, is figuring out where you were and what songs were better, and all that. I mean, there seems to be more songs on this record that's. I mean, I tend to write on acoustic guitar first, but I think more songs, at least subconsciously, were not written as much with a band. Maybe because I was touring a lot in Europe solo. Maybe that was a subconscious thing. And the subject matter, too, which is always, I'm just drawn to basically writing what's what I have interest in that moment. And so how they coalesce that way is kind of one of the magic pieces of it that I don't know. His feet hit the floor, the shade is raised. Sunday morning ritual time again. Family getting ready for a ride to the church. The preacher rails broken hail, lost in the lurch. The tie is selected, the knot's too tight. The congregation gathers, there is no light. He scribbles on the program with a chewed up pencil, hanging by the hymnal like a seldom used utensil. So many people looking for the proof. All this desire left for us to lose. All these choices really ours to choose. Thomas and his father play the Sunday blues. Thomas and his father got the Sunday blues. Home again on the bed, a jacket falls down. Thomas burrows underneath and starts to play the clown. His father smiles and breathes a sigh of relief and pulls a bottom card from the deck of disbelief. They sit together and read the Sunday funnies, holding off the sad, melancholy Monday when Dad will ride the train to work where the boss rails like broken hail, lost in the lurch. So many people looking for the proof. All this desire left for us to lose. All these choices really ours to choose. Thomas and his father play the Sunday blues. Thomas and his father got the Sunday blues. As Thomas grew older, he began to get the joke. The riches of the rich can still be broke. Or words that flow like a wound that bleeds, or a dog that barks up an empty tree where the leaves are dead and years disappear in spite of who you are and what you fear. Thomas and his father in their bond unbroken travel through life with words unspoken. So many people are looking for the proof. All this desire are left for us to lose. All these choices really ours to choose. Thomas and his father play the Sunday blues. Thomas and his father got the Sunday blues.
That song is Sunday Blues from our in-studio guest this week, Doug Hoekstra.
12 below on Christmas Day, idle chatter fills the train. Steam rises from a iron grate outside the window miles away. Seems everywhere I go has a familiar feel, yet to none of it I belong. And when I find something I think is real, I close my eyes and then it's gone. Blow beautiful dreams, blackened by the weather. Blow beautiful dreams until we are together. Blow beautiful dreams. I hear a violin play, soft and sweet. Sounds echo through a deserted street. My expectations get the best of me. I put them on a shelf I can never reach. She stopped by her reflection, checks out her makeup and her hair, and the glass shines in all directions. She's looking for something already there. Blow beautiful dreams, blackened by the weather. Blow beautiful dreams until we are together. Blow beautiful dreams. "12 below on Christmas Day, it cannot melt the ice away. And who will come to bear the weight of all thoughts we hold at bay? All these kisses on the cheek, the smell of cinnamon potpourri, and the void that always lies between who we are and how we're seen. Blow beautiful dreams, blackened by the weather. Blow beautiful dreams until we are together. Blow beautiful dreams."
That song is Blow Beautiful Dreams from our in-studio guest this week, Doug Hoekstra.
All right, I want to ask you a little bit about some writing, because I spent a lovely few minutes earlier this week on your website reading a short story that's posted up there, which is something else that you do. And
Right.
and actually, there's a collection coming out next year?
Well, actually, the nonfiction book's coming out next year.
Okay.
My Hard-Boiled Heroes and Renegade Romantics book, yeah.
Okay. What struck me about the short story was, as is the case with all good short stories, it's the detail. And songwriting is a very different kind of thing. It has that structure. You have to remain in that structure of a song.
Right.
So you can't necessarily get all of those details in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know, sometimes I think I try to cram too many details in my songs, but I think the one thing that applies to both is trying to, I like lyrics. I mean, most of my lyrics are narratives, but I also like lyrics that make you feel like you're there, that give you some sense of place, how the wind on your skin maybe, the way things smell, almost like cinematic scenes, really. And so, I mean, I think of that very consciously no matter what I'm writing. And that part of the songwriting I really work on, because it's that whole, English 101 thing about showing or telling, and I just like to let the scene unfold and let the characters in the setting take the listener. Mm-hmm. And that part of it isn't all that different than short story writing or poetry. Probably a bigger problem would be sometimes I'll be writing a song that is a little too verbose, and in that case, a lot of the lyrics will get cut, for the sake of the music, because I don't want to be like, the English major with the guitar, which we've all seen.
We have them. That job is taken.
Yeah, so, I mean, I really try to avoid that. And it's weird because sometimes, I got to say, every positive can be a negative. But on this record, I've gotten these reviews where it's like, the one guy said, Oscar Wilde meets F. Scott Fitzgerald meets Brian Wilson. I'm looking at it, and it was a great review, but I'm thinking, oh, everybody's going to want to buy that record. I mean, so, I mean, on one hand, it's, I'm proud of it, but on the other, too, I mean, I do take care of the music, and I want to make sure that people can, get into the melodies and the arrangements, even if they blow off my lyrics. It's okay with me. Stop my memory. Carl stands completely still. Eyes cast upward at blinking lights, spaces that they fill between two banks of clouds, floating beyond the roof. Single drops of rain kiss the glass and sneak on through. Crawling out from under everything he knows, crawling out from under, crawling out from under everything he knows. Now some say we die every day, that is how we live, passing through the deeper blue with something about to give. And he sees himself as a child with an ear against the wall. All he hears are muffled voices and footsteps down the hall. Magnolias of the spring losing blossoms in the fall. Crawling out from under everything he knows, crawling out from under, crawling out from under, crawling out from under everything he knows, crawling out from under, crawling out from under everything he knows. streetlights point the way down a cloudy corridor, and he follows to the staircase, takes 7 stories down, and he wanders beneath the surface. He is lost and then he's found, and the stories he's been told fall one by one to the ground, like single drops of rain, each with a single sound. Crawling out from under everything he knows, crawling out from under, crawling out from under, crawling out from under everything he knows, crawling out from under, crawling out from under everything he knows.
Crawling Out From Under from our in-studio guest this week, Doug Hoekstra. The original of that song you will find on Doug's latest release called Waiting, which came out last fall.